Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's Niall, and I'm delighted tonight, as always, to be joined by Greg and our stateside representative, Thomas. And we're here for a big fight breakdown on this one, and this is one I really can't wait for. It's a big one. It's the IBF World Lightweight title fight between the pound for pound great Vasyl Lomachenko and one of Australia's finest, George Kambosos Jr., May 12th in Perth, Australia. And yeah, this is sure to be an excellent one. So, guys, hope you're well. First of all, let's jump straight into it because we have a lot to talk about here. It's a cracking fight. This is so. Yeah, let's get going. The first question I wanted to kind of ask is just to kind of get what your kind of lay of the land is at 135 at lightweight. It's still a really stacked kind of division, even with the kind of the likes of the former undisputed champion Devin Haney moving up, Teofimo Lopez moving up. You've still got Lomachenko, Kambosos, but also Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis as well. Other pound for pound great talent. So the first thing I wanted to know is the winner of this fight the number one lightweight in the world for you, or is it the other two names I mentioned? Let's hear it. Greg, I'll go to you first. Is the winner of this number one at 135, or if not, who is?
Yeah, thanks first of all for having me now. It's a really good question. I think it's hard to look past Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson at the moment. I think that Vasily Lomachenko on his day, I think he can beat Tank Davis, but times have shown that he may just be getting to a different road now. That it's a road where things start to slow down ever so slightly. If we're being honest, he had an off night against Teofimo Lopez. He was in a really, really close fight that a lot of people had him beaten, Devin Haney. So for me, I think both guys are right up there at the top, but I think the top two, rightly so at the moment, are Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson.
Interesting. Interesting. What about yourself, Thomas? Is the winner of this number one, or is it Shakur or Tank? What do you think?
No, I think Greg put it well. I think the winner of this fight would have to, of course, get past either Tank and or Shakur to prove themselves to put themselves as number one, right? And I really don't see either guy, Kambosos or Lomachenko, being able to beat either one of those two. So it they I don't really think that the winner of this fight would be number one, but perhaps maybe, number two or number three. And still, like you said, Niall, it's a cracking matchup. So I'm expecting to, you know, we'll see how it turns out. I think that Lomachenko, without giving too much away on my prediction, I think he still has some left in the tank.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. It is interesting to kind of gauge who was number one. Like I can definitely understand both of your points in terms of Shakur and Tank Davis being number one and two, definitely in terms of talent anyway. But I just think Lomachenko has the best body of work for me out of the four of them at lightweight. Pound for pound great. And if you look at his resume at 135, it's better than Kambosos. Well, with the exception of Teofimo Lopez, obviously it's better than Kambosos, Shakur Stevenson, and Tank Davis, as great as they are. So, in terms of body of work, I personally probably have to say Lomachenko is still number one, even though he's coming off the Haney loss. But as you mentioned, it was a very controversial kind of loss. A lot of people thought he beat Devin Haney, who was the top dog. So, and Kambosos also beat Teofimo Lopez, who beat the man in Vasyl Lomachenko, of course. But so it is interesting, but I think the winner of this fight definitely does have to kind of test themselves against Shakur or Tank Davis to really prove who the top dog is at a lightweight. But yeah, we touched on it there. Greg and Thomas, you both kind of touched on it, which is a nice segue into what we're going to talk about next. You know, if those fights were to come to kind of fruition, the winner of this fight, without giving your prediction away too much, how do you see them fare against Shakur Stevenson or Tank Davis if they were to happen after this. Now I know Thomas, you said you already kind of said you wouldn't give either you wouldn't give Lomachenko the upper hand on Shakur or Tank. So I'm gonna go back to you and think just to kind of elaborate on that and
Sure.
how do you see these fights playing out? And if you can't see him beating either, who does he have the best chance against kind of stylistically?
Right. Well, I think that Lomachenko, if he were to win, would pose the best threat to either Tank Davis or Shakur. Um, but I think it's a matter of how much left does he have. He's on the dark side of 35 after a long career. I mean, not necessarily a long pro career, but when you combine that with the amateurs, such a high level, it's a lot of miles. So yeah, I think it's a matter of how much he has left in the tank. And if Kambosos were to win, I think my problem with him is just against, either Shakur or Tank is I just don't really think, as Floyd, not to be disrespectful, but as Floyd Mayweather would say, he's kind of like straight up and down, no special effects. I don't really feel like he would bring enough to the table athletically or even in terms of ring or IQ to really pose a threat to either of those two guys. So if Loma were to win this fight against Kambosos, I think him against Tank and or Shakur, of course, would be great matchups.
Hmm. Interesting stuff. How about yourself, Greg? Same question. If the winner of this, without obviously kind of giving your prediction, we'd touch on how both men might do against a Shakur Stevenson or a Tank Davis if those fights were to play out next for the winner of this one in massive unifications.
Yeah, tough question now. I think that Loma's best chance against, just say for example, against Stevenson. Stevenson is still a little bit raw in terms of really world elite level opposition that's been faced. The boy looks like he can do it all, but we need to see him in that acid test, and we haven't seen it properly yet. With Tank's power is always a worry, a big worry. Um, he's a very intelligent fighter. I never overlook the way that he let oh, name's leaving me now. Carol Frampton opponent, guys. Who am I
Uh,
looking for?
Santa
Santa
Cruz.
Cruz. Santa
Yeah.
Cruz. Yeah, I'll never forget the way that he let Santa Cruz throw at him because he knew he was going to counter. That's a very, very clever fighter that lets someone do that. If I give him the best chance against anyone, I think he could potentially outbox Davis. I think Shakur, depending on how confident Shakur is at this stage in Loma's career, it might just be a little bit too sharp for Loma. Um, but if you're asking me, Niall, I think I agree in level with Thomas that it might just be the wrong time in Loma's career. Loma is mostly effective off of changing angles, throwing shots from abnormal places. And at 35 years old, at 9 stone 9, that's got to stop happening one day. And I think round about the age of 35, it might be. But can I tell you something? See, on his day, Vasyl Lomachenko is one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. The only thing that we are debating in this is his age and what he's got left. At his very best, I don't think any of these guys hold a prayer to him.
Yeah, it's very well put, and I have to say I agree with both of your points there. You hit the nail on the head for me. I think I'd on his best day or somewhere close to his best day, I'd pick Vasyl Lomachenko to beat Tank Davis. And I'd probably pick him to beat Shakur Stevenson as well. But the biggest question is now, obviously, time. Father Time is undefeated. And is it catching up with Lomachenko? Greg, you mentioned the angles, the footwork, the movement. It's what makes him tick. And he has slowed down. There's no doubt about it. He's still a great fighter. He proved it against Devin Haney. As I mentioned, a lot of people thought he beat Devin Haney, but he slowed down compared to what he was at 130, 126. He's still a great fighter, but he's getting hit a lot more and he has slowed down. So I think time is the deciding factor here because on his day, you hit the nail on the head, Greg. Lomachenko, one of the best ever, one of my favorites ever. To watch stylistically, just beautiful. But I think, yeah, Shakur or Tank Davis, as great as they are, will be getting Lomachenko at a good time. Now we could go and kind of look sensational against Kambosos and we'd be changing our tune on where he's at. But yeah, I just think Father Time would kind of undo Lomachenko here in this one, to be honest. So I have to agree with both of you there in what you said. So yeah, let's jump into the fight now itself. What we're here for, the main talking point. Lomachenko versus Kambosos. How does it go down? I'll go back to you for this one, Thomas. Is it a case of Kambosos kind of knowing that he can't outbox Lomachenko? He has to stop him, although it is in Australia. So I hope there's no kind of dodgy scorecards or home cooking. But does Kambosos come out here with the game plan to knock Vasyl Lomachenko out? How does it go down, and who wins? Let us know. Let us know what you think.
Well, I think that at the very least, Kambosos, you can't just, give Loma time to think and move around him and pot shot him, and he's gonna have to rough him up, and perhaps come in with a knockout mindset, but you know maybe he could win a decision if he just piles up enough rounds and stays active early on because one thing about Loma too is he can be quite inactive at times, and I think we saw that against Teofimo Lopez, and it cost him the fight. So that being said, I do think that Loma has just enough to to uh, to outpoint Kambosos over 12 rounds. I don't think Kambosos is going to have enough physically or enough in terms of craft really to really get the job done against Lomachenko. So unless Lomachenko has an off night or Father Time has caught up to him, I see Loma winning. I'd say unanimous decision, comfortable.
Unanimous decision, Lomachenko. Greg, I'll throw it over to yourself. How does it go down stylistically? You're a great mind for the stylistic kind of aspects of fighters, breaking fights down, as is yourself, Thomas. Let us know what you think. How does this go? And who wins?
Yeah, thanks so much for your kind words. Now, for me, I think Kambosos needs to force the pace. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've got the remedy to beat Vasily Lomachenko. I don't think anyone really in his prime has ever had that. But for me, when I've noticed that when Lomachenko is at his weakest, force the pace. But when Loma goes to throw with him. Throw with him so that someone's got to land there. I mean, he's not a huge puncher, Lomachenko. He's a very accurate puncher. But I think that's Kambosos' best chance. Force the pace. Let Loma go to lead. When Loma leads, throw at the same time as him and maybe throw one or two more shots. For Lomachenko, I think he has to watch for Kambosos coming in. You know that Kambosos is going to force the pace. He's going to have the home fans behind him. He's going to try and put on a bit of a show that he is aggressive, etc. Make that work against him. Anything he throws, finish it to the body. Don't ask me why, but in this fight, I think we see Lomachenko hurt Kambosos to the body on the way in. We shall see, but for me, I'm relatively similar with Thomas. I think that if he's still got enough in the tank, I think we see a Lomachenko win. I think he could make hard work of it now, only because, as Thomas said, he can be a little bit inactive. He's not as busy as maybe he should be at times. Maybe that's age. But I think that we see a Vasily Lomachenko win here, should Father Time still be on his side.
Yeah, very, very good points made there. And again, I have to agree with what both of you said. For me, I think Kambosos, he needs to totally dictate the pace here. He needs to not let Lomachenko settle into a rhythm at all. And as you both mentioned, you know, capitalizing on the inactivity. And I think especially early, when Loma is downloading the data, as the saying goes, with Lomachenko and Usyk, the magnificent Ukrainians, he needs to capitalize on that And Greg, as you mentioned, throw with him. Just don't let him settle at all into a rhythm. And what's going to be interesting is here the swing rounds, the close rounds are going to likely go to Kambosos. If there's any rounds that are close, the Australian judges are giving it to George Kambosos. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, but I think the early rounds are going to be crucial here, but dictate the pace and, yeah, don't let him settle. But I don't think, as Thomas mentioned, I don't think he has anything to kind of stop Lomachenko on his tracks or offset him like that. I don't think he has the power. I don't think he has the strength massively. Obviously, he's the bigger man, the natural lightweight, but he's not a big enough puncher or physical enough to kind of dictate the pace for 12 rounds. So even though Lomachenko is on the slide, I do think he does have enough to get past George Kambosos. I do. So I have to agree with a Lomachenko win. We're going for the clean sweep. Lomachenko win, adding another notch to his belt and another world title at lightweight. So yeah, that's our predictions. One more question I'm going to ask is before we go. I'll give you a minute each to answer. We mentioned Father Time's not on the side, 36 years of age. If Kambosos does pull it off, and convincingly, there's no doubt about the winner. Should Lomachenko call it a day? Should he walk away? I'll throw it over to you, Greg, for this one. Will it be the last fight of his career if he does lose this?
I think it should be the last fight of his career, and I think it would be, with the greatest of respect to George Kambosos. I've got so much respect for that guy. I think he's a tough operator. I remember him coming over to the UK, fighting Lee Selby, fought Devin Haney twice. The guy's balls are not in question. But with how great I think Vasyl Lomachenko is, there isn't a world that George Kambosos should be beating Vasyl Lomachenko. And if it comes down to that, yeah, I think he should, and he will call it a day should he lose.
There you go, Thomas. What do you think? If it's a Kambosos win, is that the last we see of Lomachenko?
Yeah, I think Greg put it well. I mean, I think the question is, if he does lose, right, what does he have left to prove? Especially, besides capturing an undisputed title. But if he loses to Kambosos, that's not going to happen. I don't think at his age. So, after that, it's like, what would you have left to do? I don't really like him fighting at super lightweight, and I don't really like him going back down in weight either. So I would say just call it a day, man. He's had a great career. So what more is there to prove?
Hmm. Yeah, I have to agree with what you both said again. Nothing to prove. If he was to lose this, hats off to Kambosos. It'd be a phenomenal win if he was to pull it off. But yeah, Lomachenko, he's have nothing left to prove. 36, done it all as a pro and as an amateur. And as you mentioned, Thomas, I don't want to see him going up in weight. 135 is definitely a ceiling. So yeah, there'll be nothing else for the great man to prove there. So I do think it will be the last we see of him if he lost this. Yeah, I'd have to agree. So yeah, that's all we have time for in this big fight breakdown for Vasyl Lomachenko and George Kambosos, May 12th in Perth. IBF world title on the line. Let us know what you think in the comments. Can the great Vasyl Lomachenko add another notch to his all-time great legacy by winning another world title at lightweight? Or will Kambosos produce an upset and what would be very arguably the best win by an Australian boxer that we've seen, to be honest with you? Let us know what you think. As always, don't forget, drop us a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. Always great content coming out on a regular basis. So, Thomas, Greg, thanks for the time and speak again.